post, that's all. Before that no Forest play. Come join Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.
Hello there and welcome to Talking Reds, a Nottingham Forest podcast. I'm Greg Oram and with me, of course, it's my podcast partner, Richard Spray. With us on the panel, we have Raf, the Random Pundit. Okay, it was a game that was definitely must not lose, but more than that, it really had to be must win. And win they did. It wasn't pretty. In fact, at times, it was darn ugly. But Nottingham Forest bucked their trend and came back from a goal down to win by 2-1 at the London Stadium against Nuno's West Ham United. Over the next hour, we'll unpack the key talking points. And there were a few to say the least. And also, we're going to reflect on what this could mean for the second half of the season for the Reds. A 7-point gap to the drop zone means we breathe a little easier, but this is no time for complacency, and turning the corner only really happens if they can build on this vital win, courtesy, of course, from the fantastic Nicholas Dominguez and effervescent Morgan Gibbs-White.
Going to get a decision now. Offside. Long check for offside, and it's been ruled out. Goes towards the 6-yard box. It is headed on.
Yes!
Near post and in. It loops in off the near post. I think it's Dominguez. Dominguez with a header near post that loops right up and over everybody and inside the far post.
Nico Dominguez. La 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 la. Nico Dominguez. La 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 la, Nico Domínguez para el Nottingham Forest. 1-1.
Gibbs-White comes up now. Right out, it sends it down the middle and in. Gibbs-White scores.
Gibbs-White.
Richard and Raf are thinking, what on earth is going on? But, you know...
No, my God.
It's always a crapshoot when those intros. You never know.
It's disco time.
No, amazing. The nostalgia of like watching football on Channel 5 back in the day of Italian football with the crazy commentators. And now I think it was Tupa that's like channeled into all of this South American kind of commentary on Forest, and it's giving the same type of vibes as well. It's brilliant.
Amazing. No, I love it. If I see something, I'm using it. And, you know, when Nico Dominguez and Morgan Gibbs-White pop up and get us the win, then we're going to celebrate that for certain. Welcome along, guys and girls in the chat. Please do let us know that you are here, and we will get some comments on screen when we can. And go ahead and hit like and subscribe whilst you're at it as well. You can join us on social media across X and Facebook, TikTok and Instagram, to say the least. Please do give us a 5-star review if you can on any of your podcast channels. All right, we've got a lot to get through. We're going to be looking back on last night's game. We are going to be talking about the upcoming game against Wrexham as well. But before I get really into it, I want to start with this. So on screen, this is from Fabrice Hawkins, who's a respected European football reporter. He's now saying that Arno Calamuendo is set to leave Forest and sign on loan with a 30 million euro buy option at Frankfurt. This is something we've known about for a while, but obviously with him being on the bench the last 2 games, 1 or 2 question marks about whether this was really going to happen. Apparently he is signing, according to Fabrice, this afternoon. The striker underwent his medical this morning, and Calamuendo will compensate for a player leaving Frankfurt to go to Nice. That's Eli Wahi is going off to Nice. So, yeah, the Calamuendo deal looks like it is set to happen. So I'll get you guys to kind of chuck in your Calamuendo thoughts along the way rather than kind of get comments on it right now. But just to say, Calamuendo looks like he is going. The window's open. Let's hope someone's coming through our door. Last night's game, Richard Spray. I mean, Raf and I met up beforehand, which was great. We saw Mikey from Forest Focus as well and had a few drinks with him, which was brilliant. You know, so the nerves certainly started to kick in a little bit before. So it was nice to be at a game in London where we finally get a win, Raf? But Rich, give us your take on the game in general, the team selection and your overriding thoughts. now you've had time to sleep on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm ashamed to say that I've needed to be more focused on work, but I clearly wasn't able to do that. But yeah, it kind of just epitomizes what it is to be a Forest fan, that match, right? The intense like lows and then the intense highs. One minute you're thinking you're relegated, the next minute you think you're gonna send up the table rapidly. So it's just sort of felt like it was a microcosm of that. The dripping with context from Pete Blackburn, the dripping with irony going on with things like even Morato time right at the end, and Deitch throwing him on, and Morgan, the guy who really I think grew as a player under Nuno, and it just felt like there was a lot of interesting dynamics like that. It's interesting that people have been saying things like horrid, ugly, horrible, disgusting, like to the overall level of play. But I think when you take a step back, I mean, even if you just try to, blanketly look at SofaScore, for example, games like Everton, both games actually, Fulham, Brentford, West Ham earlier in the season when Nuno was still our manager, those kinds of things were actually scored much lower than what this was scored. So I recognize that's a totality of an entire game, but I would say this wasn't a horrid performance. I would say the win against Wolves was uglier than this one, but I just think by nature, it was just so great to finally see little things go our way, VAR go our way. Getting that goal disallowed, you can argue whether that should have been disallowed for them, but ultimately it was just nice to actually have a few things go our way. You saw, amazing shots from outside the box that were close to going in. It just felt like things were aligning to give us that opportunity to kind of create a little bit of separation, which we did. So in the end, it was brilliant. But yeah, at one point I was literally like, we've just got to accept we're getting relegated, but clearly that's not the case at this stage.
Steve is with us in the comments. He says, good afternoon, guys. Not a convincing win, but 3 points and step closer to safety. And that will do for now. Brucey in Texas says he's had a second look at their disallowed goal this morning, saying he thinks we got away with one. Well, we're going to talk about that, and I'll explain why we didn't get away with it. In fact, it was a legitimate decision. Toronto's own Ian Wigginton says he would have been disappointed to be on the receiving end of the penalty too. So plenty of talking points, and those two are the key ones, Raf. But you were sat, I think, a little bit further closer. I mean, my position last night was pretty good, but I still couldn't quite see the other end of the pitch because, you are still quite far back. I think you were a little bit further down than me. How did you find the London Stadium and watching Forest there? And what are your overriding thoughts this morning on the game, buddy?
Gosh, right. So, first off the bat, it's broken my away hoodoo, which was seriously bad. It was like Everton, Fulham in recent games, and this was like hopefully third time's the charm. And my gosh, it was a touch and go thing, but we got there in the end. So thank goodness I found a shirt and a scarf and a sock combo that seemed to now work in times of vibes that I'm now going to try and port to the next away game. Other than that, it's a horrible stadium. It's not the first time I've been there, but it's just horrible. I can see why the West Ham fans don't want to be there. You're so far away from the pitch, but you are low. It's kind of like being in the dugout, like that type of view that you get. Some people might like it, not personally.
Well, where you were sat, you are. When I went 2 years ago, I was up at the back, and it was.
Oh right, no, I was right at the front, at the front. But a little bit to what Rich was saying. Now, when I was going there, I wasn't expecting us to put on a performance like against Spurs or anything else like that. The context of the game was this was gonna be a dogfight. Like West Ham had to win. It's their gaff we were going to. It's a Tuesday, freezing night. It was raining. I don't know what people are expecting to see. It's not going to be like watching Brazil. That's never going to happen in a million years. And this was just about getting the 3 points. And we'll come on to subs and some other things in a minute. And there's a lot of people hammering Deitch. I'm really not after yesterday at all in any way, shape or form. And I'll come on to explain why. For my troubles, throat infection is now a chest infection from being at that flipping London Stadium, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't change it whatsoever. So I'm very, very happy, Teddy. And just to put some context, which I think I need to credit yourself, Rich, for having shared this just before, the context of what just happened. West Ham are now 89% probability to be relegated, We are now 10%. So that is the sliding doors moment of yesterday. And forget what it looked like. It was just about the 3 points.
Yeah, we'll touch on that a little bit more as we get towards finishing the match off. But on the game itself, I thought we started fairly okay. It wasn't brilliant. I wanted a faster start, but as you say, Raf, and I agree wholeheartedly, you got two teams that are not in form, that are at the foot of the table. This was never going to be pretty. It was always going to be an ugly game. It was never going to be anything other than, probably a little bit of a bitty performance. And actually, the goals that won it, or the goals that were scored, I mean, they all came from dead ball situations. You had two corners and a penalty, So it almost wasn't quite like that, though. Nico, brilliant again. Nico Williams, that is. On 10 minutes, fantastic strike. Areola saved something going top bins. So for a moment, I thought, maybe my luck was going to change. But Richard, it was on 13 minutes that we had that set piece. Hutchinson, who has been good, but I kind of felt like this was maybe showing his inexperience a little bit. He tried to be clever, and I think he had the ball snatched off him by Scarles, and it eventually led to the corner where they scored from. Just take us through that kind of phase of play. And, I couldn't see what was happening from where I was. I didn't know it was a Murillo own goal until after that. Could he get out of the way? Could he do anything about it?
Yeah, I watched it back a couple of times. The unfortunate, it was a nice Cruyff turn initially, and he had him I think dead to rights, but then he kind of like held onto the ball, and then of course once he tried to clear it, that it was that hesitation moment, that 1 second hesitation that created the corner. When I saw Souček in, I think we mentioned this on the opposition preview when we were looking at this, that I thought maybe Nuno might employ someone like Souček, because he knows from his days as our manager, he was a problem for us, and he always was a problem on set pieces. And he just seems to come in, even though he's not been in form and he's not been favored, to start matches and create issues. And that's exactly what he did. He just got he had a glancing header off of really wasn't a good corner. It was very short. He just happened to be playing up near that near post and advancing a little bit forward, glancing it back. And I would say this was a typical sort of Murillo's type approach. He quickly diagnoses and goes and attacks the ball. The problem was instead of heading it up and it going out, which I think 9 times out of 10, I would imagine he would do that. It just glanced off of his head and went in. And Sells was really in position, it looked like, to actually be able to at least block it coming in, because there was, I think, either Bowen or someone was right behind Sells, and he was there with his hands ready to block it. Unfortunately, because of what Murillo did, it completely threw him off. It just went straight behind him. And so, yeah, it was an unfortunate thing. I like you pointed out, there was so much chaos going in, so many bodies in the way. It was difficult to assess what occurred. And so until I watched the replay back, I didn't really realize what happened. But yeah, as soon as that went in, I'm like, this just feels like in that moment, one of those matches similar to Everton, where we feel like we're going to control a lot of it, but then we end up being on the losing end because we can't finish, or we can't have that final ball. And I mean, damn, how many crosses did we have at some points too? It was just, again, like this sort of perpetuation of issues that we've already been complaining about that we didn't want to see. But yeah, thankfully it all worked out. But yeah, that's essentially what happened.
I think I read somewhere we had about 23 crosses going in this game, and about only 6 kind of hit areas that cause any problems. And then when we go 1-0 down, Raf, I mean, I was like the dreaded, oh my gosh, we don't do well when we go 1-0 down in the Premier League. Certainly not coming back. We've never come back to win when we've gone 1-0 down and are losing at half time. Obviously, last night,
I think once in about 1967, I think.
No, it was 1997 was the last time.
Was it 1997?
Yeah. That last time in the Premier League that we've done that. So we've flipped that. But I mean, how were you feeling when we won 1-0 down? Because I still felt like we were the better team. We had the Callum Hudson-Odoi cutting in finesse shot that hit the bar in 42 minutes. But were you worried, Raf, it was just going to be another one of those days similar to Richard?
Mixture. When the goal went in, doom set in. But so much of the time we say the Forest game is the first 5 minutes and then extrapolate to the whole rest of the game. And actually our first 10 minutes were really good. And we're saying to everyone around us, we've got off to a real flyer. We've got some intent here. This is going to be a good game. And then we get sucker punched. Like, they've done nothing to us up until that point. What I will say is corners are not a surprise to me. We don't have any tall players. Sangare is off. Wood is injured. Igor Jesus is under 6 foot, right? Savona is now out of the team because Ola's back. Yates is injured. We don't have tall players. So it's not a surprise, the fact we've got problems against corners until these players come back, and we need that mixture with us. So it was a sense of a bit of inevitability. I was, though, keeping the faith, the fact I was nervous, but I did think, look, we've been playing well up until now. This sucks, but let's see how we respond to it. We didn't actually respond that well to it, to be fair. Everything went a bit flat afterwards. And at half time, by the time we got to half time, I was seriously despondent.
Yeah, I mean, I was feeling the same. And when Deitch came in, I think one thing that he wanted to stamp out was individual errors. And I think he did that by and large quite well, because that had been creeping into our game. But last night, with Hutchinson trying to be a little bit clever, you kind of got to put it down to another individual error that leads to a goal. And I managed to find some stats that say Forest have made, I think it's 6 errors this season that have led to goals. That's the 4th most in the division. 4 of those mistakes have come in the 13 matches under Deitch as well. So that's been kind of creeping in. You know, we've also made 23 errors that have led to shooting chances as well. So we're kind of giving up mistakes in key areas and allowing teams to capitalize when we're making those errors. Did you want to come in there, Richard?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that was also an issue towards the end of last season as well. I mean, the one that stands out, obviously, is the one, I think it was against Leicester or Everton? There was one where Murillo, I'm trying to remember which one it was, where he tried to do a little bit too much with the ball at his feet, and then he got dispossessed, and then they just were off and running and they scored. So it even under Nuno, it felt like there was similar kind of things happening, right? And so I'm not quite sure what's at the root of that, other than, you know, it's not always the same player each time that occurs, right? It varies, but that's an interesting stat. But yeah, it just came to mind. Set pieces as well as individual errors seemingly leading to goals was a problem even under Nuno.
Half time comes, we go in 1-0 down. I mean, I don't think I was necessarily crying out for a change to be made, but he did choose to take Hutch off and bring Bakwa on. I mean, Bakwa was getting a little bit of heat from his performance against Villa, which I thought was a little bit harsh, because as I mentioned in the preview episode, that, you know, it's not had a lot of football. These guys have got to be given minutes, they've got to be given a chance, got to be allowed sometimes to kind of like give them a pass sometimes on a loose ball. I know that, you know, it's not easy when you're down in the relegation zone. So he's come on, and I'm going to come back to you, Raf, because I know you want to talk about substitutions, because I'm jumping ahead, but I must admit, 15 minutes to go, I was thinking, are we going to make another change from the bench? Is there anyone on the bench that we can bring on to affect this game? And it seems like maybe Sean Dyche doesn't think there is, or is it something else, Raf?
So, Dyche has been hammered by his substitutes. He's made another substitute at half time. I don't know, guys and girls, what you expect as bad substitute. That is being proactive. That is seeing there is a problem and you are changing it. Hutch did not have the best game whatsoever. His head was dropping. I actually thought Callum was going to get pulled, and he had a bad game. But it wasn't. It was Hutch. Now, if you look at, was that a good substitution or not? Throughout the whole of the first half, all our play was with Nico Williams and CHO down the left-hand side. We basically didn't use the right-hand side hardly at all. Bakwa then comes on in the second half. The left back, who's a kid, gets substituted because he's getting rinsed permanently by Bakwa. He gets hooked, and Bakwa makes loads of good runs. Yes, he's not winning his duels and his second balls as much, but there's reasons for that, and it's match sharpness, it's everything. He was actually very good at that right at the beginning of the season, so it's there. He's got the ability to do it. It's just you're not expecting the world out of Ola when he comes back from lots of time out. So I don't know why we're cutting people different amount of slack here. And that affected the game. We were then more balanced and we're using both wings, which then was a much, much better thing. So tick, absolutely great. We were looking at the options of who could come off the bench. And actually, with everyone like injuries in a way and everything else as well, would you bring on McAtee with the intensity of this game? And when you get subs that come on, if they don't pick up the game quick enough as well, you can cause problems of them being a passenger in the game for about 15 minutes before they can actually get up to speed. So would he be trusted? No. Zinchenko be trusted when we've now got our back five for the first time since August, I think, altogether. So you're not making a substitute anywhere on the back line, probably. Then you go to the midfield. Ando was really looking knackered. I thought maybe let's put on Luiz because it's less than 45 minutes. It doesn't even count towards the contract. Maybe put him on. But again, that's the only one I questioned. We don't have any more wingers to put on anyway. And then it was, do we put a Callum Wendo on or something? But I wouldn't put Taiwo on. I love him, but I don't think that was the solution. And Callum Wendo, with us trying to, everything's still going out to Jesus, would Callum Wendo have suited it? And Jesus has got a massive engine on him. Everyone's got, well, we'll come on to the Wrexham lineups, but the majority of players have got 2 weeks rest. So for him to go, I trust these sets of players. This is my best 11 for what I've got. I saw one thing that I didn't like. I've changed it. It got better. He's then trusted everyone and not subbed everyone. We get the goal. He Morato times. Again, proactive. Straight away from getting the goal, in Nuno's face, he Morato times, right? And brings him on, which is excellent. I hope backward chin up, being subbed after you've been subbed on. It's not a slight on him, really, to be honest, whatsoever. And I would have hooked Callum probably at that point. But again, it's Callum's ball retention, I think, probably what he wants on the pitch. So again, it makes sense. And then who else would you have taken off? So at that point, Nico, even Morgan Gibbs-White, who was pretty terrible all game along with Callum, right? And even Anderson, and he gave the ball away 6 times. But at the end, Dominguez, like all these players were making key tackles in the last 15 minutes, right? Key tackles. So he trusted the players. They did a job. So Dyche, for me, gets pretty much a 10 out of 10 for me of how he managed that with substitutes. And I'm sure I'll get pelters for that, but that's how I see it.
No, I think you make some very good points. If you got anything you want to counter with that, guys, in the comments, please do drop them in. But we'll go back to the kind of the action. 51 minutes. I mean, Forest had started the half well. I thought they came out with more intent. Back was doing pretty well in that first 10 minutes. I don't think he had an amazing 45, but, you know, he was showing intent. And I think there was a couple of link-ups that with Jesus that were working quite well. But then 51 minutes comes and Sorenso Somerville lashes the ball into the net. We know subsequently that VAR intervened and it's been ruled out for offside. Mark Wayway, NFFC, says in the comments, to my eternal shame, I initially stopped watching after the second goal went in. It wasn't until I checked my phone and saw VAR had come to the rescue that I started watching again. Because you know what, well, Mark, it's interesting you say that because there are loads of Forest fans around me that got up and left. People walked out. As soon as the second goal went in, there was a bit of an exodus. But Richard Spray, we've had a season of VAR moments, it would seem. I mean, God, just give it to us. Give us your thoughts when that goal was ruled out. What did you have in your mind when you saw it was ruled out? What was going through your thought process at that moment?
I was writing it in ink in my brain and my heart. We're going down. Just accept it. Like that was where my mind went. I know there's a lot of matches left, lots of available points left. I get all of that, right? We ultimately need about 6 more wins, I think, or equivalent points to really find ourselves in a position where we're going to survive. But in that moment, I just thought, this is wash, rinse, repeat on Everton. This is how this season is going to go. You know, day late, and as they say in the US, a day late and a dollar short, right? I mean, that's just, it felt like that was the end result there. But, you know, thankfully, and like you, I kind of turned away like Mark did. I didn't turn it off per se, but I turned away to kind of work on something. And then I look back and then everything's stopped and I'm going, what is going on here? And then that's when it started. I think one of the commentators, at least on the US side, was stating that it looked like it was going to VAR for an offside decision. I was like, I don't know all the mechanics of the rule. I think you are going to share, Greg, probably what that is. But I was like, it looked like it went off Milenkovic. Does that still qualify as offsides, considering he was the one who got in the way of the ball getting to Castellanos And so I was like, wow, if we get this one, something is afoot, something miraculous potentially could happen. And so I started to get a little bit of positivity going. And then when they rolled it out, I was like, all right, please take advantage of this, boys. Don't let this moment pass. Let something good come of this, right? And quickly, so that we can seize that momentum back from West Ham.
So the offside is a good offside. And the reason why it's good offside is that the West Ham player is in an offside position when Somerville makes an action towards the ball to strike it towards him. So the point of contact of Somerville hitting the ball, he is still in an offside position. The fact that it then takes a touch off Milenkovic's foot doesn't come into play because it's not classed as a deliberate action. So there's no deliberate action by Milenkovic to push the ball away or to pass it. He's making a block. So that doesn't come into play. So there's no deliberate action from the player to play the ball. He's literally just kind of interceding in a challenging sense. So you go back to the point of contact from West Ham, and that's why Somerville's forward pass counts as the point of the ball leaving and going forward. So the West Ham player is legitimately offside. There can be no argument about it. That is the rule of association football, and it's as simple as that. So we are lucky that it happened because it's fine margins again, and we talk about fine margins all the time. But I counter you that with the goal that shouldn't have stood at Bournemouth because it wasn't a corner, and I counter that with the Manchester United first goal at the City Ground because that wasn't a corner either, and all the other things. It's called full circle. It's called the rub of the green, and everything kind of like evens itself out over the season, like they've always said. So the footballing gods were shining down on us, Raf. And it was at that moment when they scored. I mean, I said to Richard offline, and people know that I'm a religious guy. I was praying hard. I was praying really hard at that point. And I said, let this please be a sign that says, you know what, you've ridden your luck. Now buck your ideas up and pull your socks up. And boy, I thought that the Forest players responded, because 4 minutes later, it was a bit messy, but that beautiful man with the gorgeous eyes from South America, the Argentinian god that is Nico Dominguez, pops up with that header that kind of like floats into the net. Just take us through your emotions, Raf, on that goal.
Well, the players are like a pinprick in the distance, so you can't really tell what's going on.
I didn't know he'd scored it.
But the relief when we didn't even realise there was a VAR thing, and suddenly out of nowhere it's VAR, and we're like, what? Oh my God. Oh. And then it's like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely... And then when the goal was chalked off, the away section just went mental, like went absolutely mental. And I was one of Steve Battlemuch's friends I was next to, and also called Steve. And I just said to Steve, we have to use this now. We have to use this vibe that's here. The fans got way up and just started singing. I think it was about the fourth Mull of Kintyre at that stage that was then ringing out. And the players harnessed it to their credit. They harnessed it and they found a gear and they just went for it. Now, I had been talking about this game being potentially the turning point, but this is my third attempt at a turning point this season. Everton, Fulham, and then this. This genuinely could be a sliding doors moment. That VAR call could genuinely be a sliding doors moment for this season. 100%. So bookmark it and remember, when you're spouting off about VAR and everything else as well, and crap linos and all this type of stuff, actually, we had proper rub of the green. We had linos doing proper work yesterday. We were all saying it, just going, that lino knows what he's doing. Even got a few favourable ones, I think, that were in there as well. So when it counted, I would rather not have the Man City one, and I'd rather have it in this game when it is a 6-pointer go in our favour. So when it's balancing out, we're actually getting them in the games that make a massive difference to us as well. So find the positive in it, bookmark it, and hopefully this is the springboard.
Just pick up on Brucey in the comments. He says he didn't look like Somerville was attempting to pass, but drive it forward. I saw the ball deflect off Milenkovic's foot. And that's exactly what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be an attempted pass. It was a deliberate action to play the ball forwards or drive it forward. So Somerville was making a deliberate action to play it forwards, drive it forwards, push it forwards, however you want to term it. The fact it deflects off Milenkovic's block doesn't come into play. It's still offside. All right. Dominguez, I thought, was fantastic last night. He's long time been one of my favourite players. he was so crucial to us last season when we were doing really well in the Premier League. We missed him when he was injured, and I think his energy, his engine, is something that we shouldn't maybe take for granted, because he seemed like he was there last night everywhere. One thing that we wanted to look at the other day, but didn't have time, was this piece of news that Dominguez and also someone from West Ham were apparently being offered to Brazilian club Palmeiras. Palmeiras looking at other options potentially, so maybe that's not going to go. But I just wanted to put this up to highlight that, is Nicholas Dominguez Richards someone that we really ought to be keeping hold of for everything he can bring to our play in terms of kind of a bit of a utility player? He can play as a 6, he can play as an 8, he can even play as a 10, and he can even play out wide.
Yeah. In baseball, they call it 5-tool, right? You can run, you can hit, you can do all of it. You can field, right? And I think he's kind of that. He's of that same sort of ilk of a player. I at one point, it was interesting. Like, I think it was last season, the season before, I had a conversation with someone, and I was saying, what does Nico Dominguez got to do to get himself regular playing time? And I think it was like, initially I thought, well, is it because he's a jack of all trades and not a master of none that potentially keeps him from doing it? But in reality, there's two things that he has. You talked about leadership, Greg, and that question around leadership in the last in our preview, because you were thinking, okay, we're not going to have certain players like Yates aren't available and things of that nature. He took an armband in one of those recent matches as well, and I think we undervalue. There's a certain aspect of Yatesiness to him, right, where he pretty much gives you a good performance every time he touches the pitch. And then he'll have isolated, matches where he'll actually take it to a different level. And this is one of those when we needed him the most. And so while he didn't wear the armband in this match, I think he set a tone, to your point about his energy, work rate, all of those great adjectives for him, of how we needed to approach this match in order to win it, and to keep their minds on, focused and positive, and not, as you said, putting your head down when things weren't seemingly going our way. He just kept picking away, and we know in the last match too, he was bombing forward and pressing, and he at one point won the ball back and gave us an opportunity to try to drive one home. And so there's just all these little things that go unnoticed, which is what we've often said about Nico as well. He's so quiet and humble about the way he approaches the things and the way that he executes things in live games. And so I don't think we should be letting him go, because I think that would be a bad decision. For one thing, we're thin on our ranks in midfield at the given moment. We don't know when Yates is coming back. And so having a player like that who can play deep, he can play up, he can play wing, all of that stuff, the versatility and reality now makes him almost invaluable. So I would definitely want to keep him on the squad. And to your point, there's just something about him when he comes on. It just feels like we have a chance. That classic moment last year at Anfield where he put in such a great performance to help propel us forward to a win that we hadn't had in 55 years. So he's been at the core of some key victories as well, this being one of them, because he was absolutely excellent yesterday.
He's only 27 years old. He'll be 28 in June. He's a player that we, in my opinion, need to keep hold of. And so, yeah, I'm with you on that front as well. We've got lots to get through. We're going to take a very quick break, and we'll be back to talk more West Ham and then preview the Wrexham game in just a tick.
This episode of Talking Reds is brought to you by The Cheese Trader. If you love proper cheese and you love Nottingham Forest, then this is the place for you. From rich, creamy blues to powerful charcoal cheddar, The Cheese Trader has the flavour to match every moment of the season. Whether you're celebrating a big win or drowning your sorrows after a tough loss, use the code Talking Reds for 10% off every order. The Cheese Trader on Grape Lane in York. Owned by Forest fan Stu Freestow. Proper cheese, proper passion. Find them online today and join the cheese revolution.
Stu Freestow's a legend. We'll say it every time. 10% off with your Talking Reds code. All right. So, Raph, were you as surprised as me when all of a sudden, out of the blue, from that cross, that free kick that gets put in, the ball kind of like goes off and goes out of play or something, and all of a sudden on the big screen it said checking potential penalty, and I was like, what on earth is going on? Because I just didn't know what the hell had happened. And then when you see him going over to the screen, I'm saying to everyone, if he's going to the screen, he's got to give it. He's got to give it. But in my heart of hearts thinking, this is going to be the one moment where he goes to the screen and he doesn't because it's Forest. But no, he comes on the tannoy and we get the decision. I mean, were you as shocked as I was?
Yeah, the stadium is so bad. You can't see anything. Like, you just can't see anything. And there was some oohs and some ahs as the ball was pinging around the box or whatever it was. We didn't see the keeper literally punch Morgan Gibbs-White in the face, like, at all. And none of it. And so, yeah, it was the big screen that goes up, which has usually got track and field stuff going on in it and really easy to watch. And then suddenly big VAR letters go up on it. And you're like, what? And then he pretty quickly went to the screen, like pretty quickly was sent to the screen as soon as it was VAR check. And everyone was just like, here we go. But the unbelievable elation that was, oh my gosh, we've got a penalty, quickly turned into a, oh my God, we've got a penalty. And it was just like, oh. And then it got worse, which I could see. I think it was Backward that had the ball around the D. And no one was taking it off of him. It seemed like
he was ever going to take it.
Seconds. It was embarrassing that no one was stepping up to take the penalty whatsoever. He was literally offering it around to people, it looked like, doing that.
That's what they do, though. They have a player hold on to the ball until the taker steps up.
But he wasn't doing that. He was literally doing this, it looked like, to go who wanted to take it. And yeah, well, you know me and Morgan Gibbs-White. He's also gone on record to say he really shouldn't be taking penalties either. And he stepped forward. Full credit. He had a terrible game up until then. And he stepped forward as a leader to take that penalty. Ando was gassed. Nico Williams, I would have probably wanted taking the penalty. He was gassed as well. Everyone was pretty gassed. So, to be fair, he stepped up. I was like a 5-year-old. I was looking at the penalty like this, crouched behind people. I genuinely hardly watch. But I don't care. He scuffed it. I think it just went in. And that is when I suddenly felt, do you know what? The universe is providing. This is a turning point. Everything is going to be okay. Like, everything is going to be okay.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I can say that I thought he was terrible last night. I thought he was... I don't think he was brilliant. I don't think any of them were brilliant, but there were moments I thought he looked like he was trying to get back to his best. In the post-match interview, he stated, "I was always going to take it. I'm the penalty taker. I wanted it. I was always going to." And then he said, "I put it down the middle because that was the easy one." So he put it down the middle. We scored, but same as you, I wanted Anderson to take it or Jesus. I didn't want Gibbs-White to take it because I'm never confident when he steps up, but he did. He stepped up and he scored. And then it was about seeing out 7 minutes of injury time, of added time, and we did that as well. So we've got the win.
Excellence in that 7 minutes. Absolute excellence to a man. Even Morgan Gibbs-White was back making good tackles. Nico Williams, always the best player on the pitch, made about 3 tackles, I think, and then travelled up and then got a free kick. And everyone was putting their body on the line. Morato was making headers and stuff as well, which was it was unbelievable. But that was back to the essence of what our back 4 plus cells was all about last season. And in that 7 minutes, I didn't really have any fear. It was 7 minutes, I was bricking it, but I wasn't looking at the pitch going, I'm really afraid of what is happening on the pitch, as it were. And it was actually weirdly calm for something that should have been terrifying.
I think, well, the stadium wasn't particularly full anyway, and most of them had left. But listen, that's the game done and dusted, guys. We are going to move on to Wrexham in just a moment. Before we do that, I want to just put this graphic up on the screen to say Morgan Gibbs-White did step up last night. He now goes joint third in Nottingham Forest's all-time goal-scoring list in the Premier League. Chris Wood on 37, Brian Roy on 24, Stan Collymore on 22, Morgan Gibbs-White now also on 22 goals in the Premier League. He gets criticism. He's not always been brilliant, and he certainly hasn't been anywhere near the level that we know he can get to this season in enough games. But, cometh the moment, cometh the man, and credit where credit's due. Stepping up in the 89th minute to score a penalty when your team needs it so badly. I mean, I'd have been absolutely shitting it. I was absolutely shitting it, and I was stood a million miles away. So credit to Morgan Gibbs-White to that. And to Raf's point earlier, the probability of being relegated now Forest move on to just under 10, about 10%. Leeds are about 6%. Wolves are gone. They say they're on 99.28. Burnley on 93. West Ham now looking at 89%. But we know how quickly things can change in the Premier League. And we look at the Premier League table I put onto the screen, guys, and just expanding that. So, we now move on to 21 points. I'm now of the disposition to stop looking below. That 7-point cushion gives me a little bit more faith that I can look upwards. Leeds play tonight. They are going away to Newcastle at 8:15. Bournemouth, who are just a point above them, who are now in our sights, they host Tottenham Hotspur, and that's a 7:30 kickoff. So keep your eyes on those two games. We now need to start thinking about moving up the table, and those two teams are very catchable and are teams that we should be looking at. Before we move on to Wrexham, a couple of things. So I'm just going to dominate the speaking just for a moment. Sean Dyche has been getting a lot of grief in the last, 4 or 5 games with 4 wins, 4 defeats in a row. Sean Dyche at Nottingham Forest since he's come in. So this is now the Sean Dyche stat chart. So we're looking at 5 wins. We're looking at 1 draw, 7 losses in the Premier League only. So that's a 38.5 win percentage. So it looks a lot better now. We won last night. All competitions, we're looking at 17 games. This includes the European fixtures, of course. 1-8, drawn 2, lost 7, scoring 23 goals, conceding 20 in all competitions. And you can see on the right, for those that can, there's a little bit of a chart marking those points tally going up slightly. He's been in charge for 13 games. So we look at his points per game ratio as well. And points under Sean Dyche as Forest manager is 1.23 points per game. Before he came in, we were just below a point per game at 0.83. The current teams in the relegation zone, they are offering on average a 0.3 per game points tally. And Sean Dyche's Burnley Everton career surmised is a 1.06 point per game. So he's currently kind of operating at above his average. Over a 38-game season, that would equate to 47 points. So I guess I'm putting this up there so you can maybe feel assured that, look, we've had a run of games where we haven't won. We now have a win under our belt. And yes, I know we play Arsenal next in the Premier League, followed by Brentford. But Dan Scape warned us that, look, you're going to get periods under Dyche of a losing run, but he will bounce back and you will then start entering a phase of picking up more wins as well. So, yeah, he's getting heat because when you lose games, it's never pretty. It's never good. And we all start to panic. But look, the points per game is what we have to look at now. I'm feeling very confident that we are on the up and moving forwards and focusing now on Leeds and Bournemouth as the 2 teams that we should be looking to rail back in. All right. Okay. Thanks, guys. Whew. Now, just a quick piece of news. Those of you who missed it, the PGMOL have come out and admitted that Ruben Dias should have been sent off for a second yellow in the game against Man City. Forest accepted that the foul on Gibbs White was no foul and that goal was right to stand. So 6 of one and a half dozen of the other. I'm not quite sure what it achieves, but the question is for everybody, are Forest the English Premier League's biggest whingers? I think that's probably a yes, based on previous form. All right, we're on to Wrexham. We play them on Friday in the FA Cup, 3rd round. Wholesale changes, Richard Spray?
I believe so. I think to Raf's point earlier, you could see that Anderson was looking a little bit, knackered, leggy, whatever you want to call it, as we approach the end of that match. And if there wasn't evidence of how much of a battle that was, did you look at Elliot Anders' shirt on his undershirt? I mean, the guy was just covered in green and mud, right, at certain parts of his upper body. So he put in a shift for sure, and he did a great job. But yeah, I would say him, Milenkovic again. He doesn't run as much, he doesn't cover as much ground, but I think having him get a rest is key because it's not just about the physical capacity. It's also about how that affects your mind too when you're fatigued and you're not quite as acute in terms of looking at things and reacting to things quickly. So yeah, I would say a lot of changes in this match. I can't imagine him not doing that because he knows how important it is to continue to secure points. And we have a golden opportunity against Arsenal at home following up, the Wrexham game. So we need to we need to definitely be prepared for that. And these guys have been playing. I mean, Milenkovic has been playing a ton of minutes, as has Nico, as has Elliott. So we definitely need, and Morgan as well. We need to give those guys an opportunity to kind of rest from and get prepared for the next Premier League match.
Do we write the FA Cup off, Raf? Is this a free hit of some kind? Where are you on this one, buddy?
Total free hit. Totally write it off. Don't care if we win it. I'd actually prefer not to win it, to have less games to focus on. We have a cup competition to focus on. It's in Europe. We've got the league to focus on. That is enough. We don't need anything else as well. Losing early in the other cup was a blessing in disguise. Other stuff, we just don't need more fixtures in our list at all. And it would be so Forest to go to Wrexham, lose, then play Arsenal and get 1 or 3 points against Arsenal. And that is the preferred route for me, actually, to be honest, really blatantly. So you'll see from a side that I think Rich and I pretty much agreed on a side. When I just came up, Rich went, yeah, that's exactly my side. It's inexperience in the back, and it's giving some minutes to players that you want under their belt up top. That's really how you get to it. But I would expect to see also quite a lot of our under 21 side, especially those that have come back from loans as well, that are actually quite exciting to be on the bench and given a bit of a run out as well.
Okay, well, look, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll put teams up now while we're talking about Forest. This is my team. So I'm kind of... I don't want to write the cup off because I think that actually winning breeds more confidence. So I'm not quite... I always want Forest to win every game. So for those that can't see it, I've kind of gone with a little bit of a mix. And whether this is right or wrong, Angus Gunn for me starts in goal because I think that's important. Zinchenko and Savona as your fullbacks. Morato comes in. That seems an obvious one. I'm picking Milenkovic still as his partner because I think, you know what, I still want to kind of keep some experience in our team, given that we play on the Friday, then we've got a whole 8 days until we play Arsenal. So I believe there's recovery time there. The midfield area, I mean, I know Dominguez run himself into the ground possibly last night, but his engine is very good. So I've gone Dominguez and Douglas Luiz in midfield. I mean, Luiz hasn't been playing last few games, so it makes sense for him to come in. Anderson should be rested. And I've gone with Gibbs White keeping his position in the 10 as the captain. I still think that leadership on the pitch is really, really important. So I would go with Gibbs White. I wasn't sure when I made this team if Hudson-Odoi was going to be fit to play last night. He did play. I did have Hudson-Odoi in this team. I'm happy for him to play, but you know it would probably make sense that it's Bakwa, you know, given the rotation that we want. So Hudson-Odoi / Bakwa. I've put McAtee in because I think he needs minutes, playing him off the right, and then Taiwo up top. Jesus absolutely needs a rest. But, you know, to your points, guys, I mean, I'm not against Zach Abbott coming in. I'm not against the other guys coming in that are deemed as under 21s. But I'm still not ready to kind of make wholesale changes that sees too many youthful faces coming in. I wouldn't want us to go to Hollywood FC and get, you know, a defeat of a heavy nature. Or, you know, I remember years ago when we were in the Championship and West Ham came to the City Ground and they made like 11 changes and we beat them 5-0. I wouldn't want to see something like that happen where we made wholesale changes with loads of kids in and we end up going to Hollywood FC and losing big time or by 2-0. I still want to win the game. And I know I recognise what you're saying about fixtures and piling up and so on, but I just haven't got it in me to kind of like write it off. Yeah, if we happen to lose it narrowly or whatever, then so be it. But that's my team. And then, Rich, I'll come to you on the team that you and Raf agree on. Take us through what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you define experience, I would say that do you mean starters, which seems like that's what you're stating, Greg, which I completely understand that. Yeah. I went for a different approach because, look, at what point do we give players like Bakwa an opportunity to start again, to get some minutes under his belt? Because here's what we're seeing, and I understand this, we're playing the Championship side. We're not playing a Premier League side. He just needs to continue to build confidence and feel like he can contribute and he can impact games, right? Because we know how good of a player he is and how much talent he has. So players like that, but I will go through our lineup. Gunn, I agree with you 100% in goal. On the right back, Savona. But we actually, you know, I'm putting in Abbott simply because I think he can do well in this type of competition and this type of match, because we've seen him go up against, you know, real Premier League talent and do pretty decently well. So I would have confidence in him coming in and pairing. I know he's played more at the right back, but his natural position, or at least his original position, as I understand it, was center back. So I don't think you're losing a ton, right? You've got Morato pairing with him. You've got Zinchenko playing on that left back spot, which we agreed with. I've got Dominguez and Luiz in the midfield as well to try to cover you from that standpoint, because like you said, Dominguez also provides the leadership that maybe you want, as we talked about earlier, on the pitch. And then I've got Bakwa, McAtee, and Ndoye. And the reason I'm bringing Ndoye back, he may very well not be ready, but I think Dyche had said that he's got a bit of a knock. It's not serious. He likely will come back after Villa. Well, we just saw he wasn't in the squad yesterday. So is it possible that he's saving him for this match so he can bring him in? Because if he can start to bring build his confidence as well, he's going to be a key piece for us going forward, because we know what he can do. He can drop back, he can defend, he can do other things. We've seen him have flashes of brilliance, but we need that back, and we need that depth back. So and again, it's another audition for McAtee, another opportunity in that 10 to show that he has quality and continue to grow. And then of course Taiwo is an inevitability, just simply because Jesus has to get rested and Callum Wendo's not going to be here likely. So that's been my team. So same structure and formation, just different personnel.
I'm with you on back. Just quickly, because Callum played all of last night, I'm more than happy that back with the players instead of him. I'm with you 100% on that. And if Dan Ndoye is fit, then yeah, bring him back into the fight. Your team's great. That's still a team that actually can go out against Wrexham and get a win. I'm going to come to you on the opposition report in just a second, Rash. So just give us your thoughts quickly.
Just on this formation, though, this is how I would start the game, but I would be changing it even before half time. There's no point using a 145-minute credit on Luiz in this game. So I want him to set the tone for 40 minutes, then get hooked, right, off the pitch. At that juncture, I'm going to push Zinchenko into midfield alongside Dominguez, bring on Jay Cunha, put him into the middle and put Abbott at left back. Abbott's shown that he's flexible, or put Abbott at left back, at right back, and put Savona at left back. Either which way, I'm absolutely fine with doing that. At that juncture, though, also, Dan Ndoye gets hooked at half time and Hutchison is given 45 minutes as well to get his confidence back up. Now, he needs a bit of a rest, but he's also going to get a rest for those 2 European games that we've got on the horizon as well later this month. So he needs a little bit of less of a rest than the others. But it's about getting Dan Ndoye fit. It's about getting Bakwa fit and confident. McAtee match fit and confident. Hutch confident again. Taiwo, put him in the shop window, right? Put him in the shop window. Get a goal. Sell him. Find him a really nice home. I love you, Taiwo. Just let's find you another home, which is really good for you, that you'll be really happy at. And I think that's at the stage. And then the under-21 kids all come on as needed to give them this experience from like 75 minutes, depending on the game state or whatever it might be.
Ian's asking about Cubano. We don't know, actually. I don't know if he's at the club yet. There's chat that he might be looking to have another loan set up, maybe going, don't know where that would be, but I don't know what's going on with Cubano. We'll have to wait and see on that as well. Steve's asking at what point can we change our European team
29th
players?
of Jan.
Exactly. When the last game finishes against Ferencváros, we can make changes then, and so that will be updated. We're running out of time.
By the way, Greg, very quickly, it is absolute. So I know the club, sorry club, unless you've got this locked down, it is madness to let Callum Wendo go before we have another body through the door who also will not be registered for those European games, for those last 2 European games. So why we're letting Callum Wendo go before the 29th of January does not make sense to me in any way, shape or form. And I would love the club to clarify that.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get that clarification, but it just means that the person, if there is a person, and there has to be a person coming in, let's call him Strand Larsen, he's going to be taking the Premier minutes and he's going to be Igor Jesus taking those European minutes. But that remains to be seen. Right, time's running short. Raf is going to give us an abridged 3 minutes opposition promotion. I've got the clock ready, Raf. Here,
so 2 minutes.
Take it away. Off we go. We're on 54
right,
minutes.
Okay, so Wrexham are flying. They're actually, do you know what? All credit to them. Really proud of them. Up in the league. They're up to 9th place. They've got 4 wins on the bounce and are only 3 points off 5th place in the playoffs, which is really, really good. You look at their side, and actually, if you look at the last 3 games they've played, there's no one standout player. They've got players all over the pitch between their back line, of which they play a back 3 with wing backs kind of most of the time. They have in 2 out of the 3 games, and I expect them to do it again. Midfield, the 2 behind the striker and the striker, they mix and match who hits form. So there's not particular players that are on form at all. So we can't just go mark that one. We'll just need to see who activates as a Dychism during the game. Right, next slide. So if we have a look at it, then the obvious person that we need to have a look at is Kiefer Moore. Everyone should know about him. He is the goal machine. Although Josh Windass, who tucks in usually a set of 10s that's behind Kiefer Moore when he's back and fit, he does put in some of those goals, and he's got 7 goals himself. Kiefer Moore is the top person. Goals, they love some set piece goals. They've got 10. They've scored 21 from open play, 10 from set pieces. Against 22 from open play. Really set pieces they're good at. They've only conceded 4. The threat is down the middle. They use each of the wings, 37, 38%, 25 down the middle, but all their shots, 71%, are coming down the middle. There's a lot of box action as well. 60% of the shots come in that 18-yard box, with another 11% in the 6-yard box. That is Kiefer Moore's zone, right? That's there. But other than that, we're just going to have to see who's doing really well. Usually there's one defender out of the 3 that has a bit of an off game, and we just need to target who that one defender is, central defender, and that'll be the strategy.
Well, and you bring up Kiefer Moore, it probably strengthens Greg's argument about Milenkovic playing, because you need someone with the same level of physicality and the same stature, right?
Well, that did come into my thinking when I was thinking, because I completely thought about Kiefer Moore. That was completely what I was thinking when I picked Milenkovic.
Absolutely. I know you would. I knew you would. Mr. Tactics.
No, but listen, thanks for that, Raf. That was really succinct, and actually, for those that could view it, the stats were there. If you're listening and you want to see the stats on screen, you can go and bring it up on YouTube. Right.
Sorry, if I went through all the stats, we'd be there for about 5 minutes or so. So those are just the most salient ones.
Transfer rumor, just breaking. Di Marzio, the Italian Sky Italia, Gianluca Di Marzio of Sky Italia is reporting that in the last few hours, Nottingham Forest have requested information on Napoli forward Lorenzo Luca, someone that Richard Spray had been mentioning recently as well as a possible target per se. So Lorenzo Luca attracting attention from Nottingham Forest. So, keep your eyes and ears peeled on that one. We are literally out of time. I'm going to leave you with this, guys. Forest need to find more creativity and more inventiveness in their play, because, we haven't been scoring freely, obviously. I mentioned we've got 27 big chances that we've created in 21 league games. And that is really so far below the average of 31.5. So we're below the average of big chances created. So is a new striker, such as Strand Larsen or Lorenzo Luca, the answer? Or do we now need to really think about how our approach play comes together with Anderson, Gibbs, White, and the wingers and so on? Because at the moment, it's been pretty ineffective. Richard, they're going to give you like 30 seconds on that, because you've got to go to work and time's nearly up. But how much is it about approach play, or is a new striker the answer to all of our problems?
Well, I think it means that your approach play can be more effective if the person on the end of it has the ability to kind of put the ball away, right, and put it in the net. And we know that's what Chris Wood does. So when you have that profile of player, especially with Luca, for example, he's 6'7", right? So your hope is that he's not a Murado, he's not this sort of fool's gold when it comes to his ability to win aerial duels, but he can hopefully fit into that role. So I think by virtue of having someone like that, who maybe doesn't have to play the striker position on the ground as much and could help support you in set pieces and so forth, those are the kinds of things you're going to want to look for, because we did a similar profiling when we were looking at center backs a couple of years ago, and now we're doing it with strikers. So I would say yes. Plus, we're just so challenged with depth, and we know Taiwo is not the answer.
Very quickly, a big chance, if you flash a ball across the 6-yard box and there's no player there, that's not a big chance. Whereas if there's someone who's connecting with it to try and then shoot, that becomes a big chance. So it is actually about your striker as much as the balls that you're putting into the box.
100%. Okay, that takes us to time, guys. Please go ahead and hit the like button, chaps and chapesses, in the comments and chat section. The podcast will be back to review the Wrexham game for maybe Saturday. Not sure yet. We haven't quite worked that out. Keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. Raf, I know you're not really fussed about this game. You're going to give your prediction for Wrexham?
No, not really, but I would like to just have my 20 seconds just to give a huge thank you to my brothers-in-laws that gave me this for Christmas. Literally brought me to tears. Raf.
And what is
best
that
wishes
for those listening?
from Des Walker. So this is it. I can't believe I'm wearing it. It's going to be put in a frame straight after this. I just wanted to wear it for today. But this is from Des Walker for Christmas. And absolutely so touched. Absolutely. Andy and Kathy, thank you so much.
That's a current home shirt for those that can't see it. And you got the Callum collar up as well, as I would only expect you to have, sir. So well done. No score prediction from Raf. Richard Spray, score prediction from you, sir.
As much as I would agree with Raf and say I don't want to increase our fixture list and make that schedule even more tight and difficult to deal with, I'm going to say we win a 2-0. I think there's enough talent on our squad to beat them. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with a 2-0 win.
Amazing. I'm going to say 3-0 because I'm ever the optimist that whatever team we put out, we can beat anybody. And another win under our belt is good because it breeds confidence. So let's go to Wrexham. Let's go to Hollywood FC and show them that actually, it's a Premier League team coming to town. And to close, and I want to say this, we've said it time and time again, that the community of Forest fans that come together is really important. The chance to connect with you all is really, really important. The amount of people I've met since I've been doing Talking Reds has been fantastic. And one of those people that I've been really thrilled and pleased to now call a friend is Premier Elliot. And I think it's really important that we put a shout out to Elliot and say, you're loved. We're with you, brother. I know that you're having a little bit of a tough time at the moment. And this is for every Forest fan listening that might be going through a little bit of a tough time at the moment. Just talk to us. Drop a DM. Reach out. Let us know if you want to have a chat about anything at any point. You might not want to talk to me. You might want to talk to someone else. But we're here for you guys if you're having a particular tough time at any point. Just to know that this community matters. It's not just about us talking about Forest. If there's anything else you want to get off your chest, then by all means do so. So we're a team, and let's keep it that way. Come on, you Reds.
Come join Greg and Richard right here on Talking